Hey gang, just to let you know, you can now use the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, at flipsidegaming.com and originalmagicart.store. Using the code gets you 10% off orders $10 or more, and you get to help out the channel at the same time. Before we get into today's game, just a few announcements. First off, congratulations to Nathan Mehta of New Jersey for winning the Ravnica Allegiance box. Second, I am moving. That's right, we're going back to Canada, this time to Ottawa. As of March, it looks like I'll be sipping maple syrup and wearing plaid full time. But enough about that, let's get into today's games. First up, I'm playing my Vial and Tymna deck, keeping Lapse of Certainty, Swamp, Talisman of Indulgence, Knight's Whisper, Phyrexian Arena, Godless Shrine, and a Mountain. Trevor is playing Freyalise, keeping an Elvish Archdruid, Wood Elves, 2 Forests, Overwhelming Stampede, Hall of Gemstones, and a Sol Ring. Ryan is playing his Bruse and Akiri deck, keeping a Mycosynth Wellspring, Crush Contraband, Faithless Looting, Open the Armory, Plains, Mountain, and a Strip Mine. Lastly, Mike is playing his Aurela deck, keeping a Plains, a Mountain, Outpost Siege, Feldar Guardian, Armillary Sphere, Boros Signet, and Expedition Map. Trevor wins the die roll and starts us off. Trevor draws and plays a Forest, casting the turn 1 Sol Ring someone always has. Ryan plays a Mountain, and he casts Faithless Looting. He draws 2 and discards 2, passing to Mike. Mike plays a Plains and casts Expedition Map, passing to me. I play a tapped Godless Shrine, and I pass. Trevor plays a Forest, and he casts Wood Elves. He then drops a Heritage Druid before going to find his basic Forest. Ryan plays a Plains, and he casts Akiri, passing to Mike. Mike plays a Mountain, and passes to me. I play Cave of Koilos, and I cast Talisman of Indulgence, passing back to Trevor. Trevor plays a Forest, and he floats a Colorless from his Sol Ring to help cast Hall of Gemstones. He then drops an Elvish Archdruid, and using the Heritage Druid to tap 3 Elves for 3 green, he casts a Gaia's Herald and passes. Ryan draws and plays a Strip Mine. He then casts a Coalition Relic and hits Trevor for 1 commander damage. At the end of turn, Mike sacrifices the Expedition Map to go and find Command Tower and put it to his hand. Mike plays a Command Tower for his turn, and he plays a Boros Signet. He then casts an Armillary Sphere, and he passes to me. I play a Swamp and cast Phyrexian Arena, passing to Trevor. Trevor pays 6 to cast a Soul of New Phyrexia in his main phase, and he decides not to attack. At the end of his turn, Ryan puts a counter onto his relic. Ryan chooses white from the Hall of Gemstones trigger, and from the relic trigger as he removes the counter, and he taps the relic to help pay for Mycosynth Wellspring. The artifact comes in, and Ryan goes to grab a basic Plains and plays it. Ryan then gets aggressive, and he casts Crush Contraband, exiling both the Soul of New Phyrexia and Hall of Gemstones. Ryan then really draws a line in the sand by hitting Trevor once more with Akiri, but this time for 2 commander damage. Mike casts a Chromatic Lantern in his main phase, and he uses it and the Signet to crack his Armillary Sphere. He finds 2 basics, putting 1 onto the field, and he passes to me. I lose 1 to the Arena trigger, drawing an extra card. I then play a Mountain and cast my own Chromatic Lantern. I then lose another 2 life by casting a Knight's Whisper and draw 2 cards. Trevor casts Freyalise in his main phase and downticks her to blow up Ryan's relic. He then passes. Ryan casts a Hedron Archive in his main phase, and he swings Akiri at me, and I take 2 commander damage. Mike plays a Clifftop Retreat as his land for turn, and then drops an Outpost Siege. He names Khans, and then follows up with a Hissing Iguanar before passing to me. I lose 1 from the arena, drawing an extra card for turn, and I play a Swamp in my main phase. I cast a Primal Amulet, and then a Mana Vault, and I pass to Trevor. Trevor upticks Freyalise to make an Elf Druid, and then casts Elvish Promenade to make 5 more Elven Warrior tokens. He swings the Herald and Wood Elves at me for 4 damage, and passes to Ryan. Ryan casts Open the Armory, floating 1 mana from the archive. He finds and puts Shield of Kaldara into his hand, and then casts it. Moving to combat, Akiri goes at Mike, who takes the hit for 3. Mike exiles a plane with the Outpost Siege, playing it. He then casts a Feldar Guardian in his main phase, which is a bit of a tell. He has it flicker a Mountain, and he passes to me. I lose 1 to the Arena trigger, drawing an extra card for turn. I play a Temple of Silence, and say bye to whatever the card was, scrying it to the bottom. We then see a Rakdos Signet come into play, and then an Orzhov Signet before I pass to Trevor. Trevor upticks Freyalise to make another Druid token, and casts Lifecrafter's Bestiary. He moves to combat, and he swings 5 Elven Warriors at Ryan like something out of Lord of the Rings, and Ryan blocks one of them with Akiri, taking only 8. Ryan plays a Tectonic Edge as his land for turn, and he equips the shield onto Akiri. Ryan then swings Akiri at Trevor, who chumps with the Gaia's Herald, since it's not really like anyone's going to counter any of his elves this game. With the elf dying, Mike has me take 1 from the Hissing Iguanar trigger. Moving to his second main phase, Ryan flashes back Faithless Looting, drawing 2, and then discarding 2. Mike continues his trend of exiling lands with the Outpost Siege, which is kind of the best. He plays an Esper Panorama from it, and in his main phase casts Kiki Jiki. This is a combo with the Feldar Guardian, and Mike is able to make as many token copies of the Guardian as he wants. Mike decides to make 4,000 creatures, and that's about all she wrote. That is, until I cast Rakdos Charm, and choose to have it deal damage to each player based on how many creatures they control. Mike takes 4,000, while Trevor takes 9, and Ryan takes 1. As a result, Mike dies, and we move to my turn. I lose 1 to the Arena trigger, drawing another card for turn, and realize the amulet should have a counter on it from the Rakdos Charm. I then pass to Trevor. Trevor scries 1 and bottoms the card. He downticks Freyalise in his main phase to blow up the Primal Amulet, because Trevor knows how bonkers the card can be when it flips. Trevor then casts an Overwhelming Stampede, which pumps all of his creatures by +2/+2, and he swings everything at Ryan. Unfortunately, even with blocking, Ryan still dies, and Trevor passes to me. I draw my upkeep from the Arena trigger, losing 1, and draw for turn. I take 2 to play an untapped Blood Crypt, getting very low in terms of life totals when there's a board of elves sitting across from me. I then cast Dark Petition, meeting spell mastery requirements, and then fork it while it's on the stack. I get to tutor for 2 cards, and I gain 6 black mana. I grab a Blasphemous Act, and unknown to Trevor, a Yawgmoth's Will. In my main phase, I cast the Act to wipe the board, and hopefully buy myself another turn, passing to Trevor. Trevor scries and bottoms a card, drawing for turn. He then downticks Freyalise to blow up my Phyrexian Arena, and he plays a Ghost Quarter, passing to me. I draw for turn and play Cabal Coffers. I then cast Bonus Round, a card I've been dying to play. I then lose 1 life to the Talisman to help pay for Yawgmoth's Will, getting a second copy of it because of the Bonus Round. I then flash back Bonus Round from my graveyard, which means I get 2 copies of Bonus Round. I then flash back Dark Petition, which with all the bonus rounds means I get the original plus 3 copies of it, all of which have met Spell Mastery. I get to tutor for 4 cards, and I gain 12 black mana in my mana pool. Thankfully I only really need to resolve 1 spell after this, using the 12 mana to cast Torment of Hailfire where X is 10. This might not seem like a lot, but I get 3 more copies of Torment of Hailfire where X is 10. Knowing he's beat, Trevor concedes the win to me. Game 2 has Trevor playing Zurgo, keeping Sword of War and Peace, Badlands, Swamp, Stoneforge Mystic, Inquisitor's Flail, Command Tower, and Knight of the White Orchid. Matt is playing his Ezuri deck, keeping an Elvish Promenade, Dose in the Falling Leaf, Farhaven Elf, Lightning Greaves, and 3 Forests. Because apparently I can't go 1 week without posting a Teysa Karlov game, Frank is playing her and keeps an Ashnod's Altar, an Elend of the Dusk Rose, Westvale Abbey, Windswept Heath, Swords to Plowshares, Orvsov Basilica, and Merciless Executioner. I am playing Papa Daretti, keeping a Voltaic Key, Arcane Lighthouse, Commander Sphere, Valakut, a Mountain, an Unwinding Clock, and an Urza's Tower. Trevor wins the die roll and starts us off again. Trevor plays a Command Tower, passing to Frank. Frank plays a Windswept Heath and passes to me. I play a tapped Valakut, and I pass to Matt. Matt plays a tapped Oran Reef, passing back to Trevor. Trevor plays a Badlands, and he casts Boros Signet. At the end of turn, Frank cracks his Heath to go and find a tapped Godless Shrine. Frank plays a Swamp, and passes to me. I play my Urza's Tower, and I cast a Prismatic Lens, passing to Matt. Matt plays a Forest, and out comes Sylvan Library. Trevor plays a Swamp, and casts Stoneforge Mystic. He shortcuts, and casts the Inquisitor's Flail before going to search for an equipment. Frank plays a Westvale Abbey, and drops Ashnod's Altar, passing to me. I play a Mountain, and cast Commander's Sphere. I then put down my Voltaic Key, and I pass to Matt. Matt uses the Library trigger, and picks what he wants to draw. He plays a Forest, and he casts Soul Ring. And then a Farhaven Elf to go and find a basic. Meanwhile, Trevor settles on a Hammer of Nazan with his Stoneforge search, and he puts it to his hand. After finding his basic, Matt then taps his Oran Reef to give the Farhaven Elf a +1/+1 counter, passing to Trevor. Trevor taps his Swamp, Command Tower, and Boros Signet, leaving a red floating to help cast the Knight of the White Orchid. He announces he's going to find a scrubland, and using the floating mana, the soon-to-be-found Scrubland and his last land casts Sword of War and Peace. He then hits Frank for 1 with the Stoneforge Mystic and passes. Frank floats 1 black mana and bounces his swamp back to his hand as he plays an Orzhov Basilica, which comes untapped. I play an Arcane Lighthouse as my land for turn, and I cast Burnished Heart, passing to Matt. Matt uses his library and once more gets to pick what he draws. He plays a forest and drops the ever-stylish Lightning Greaves. He then casts an Ezuri and moves to equip the Greaves onto his commander. Frank puts an end to this with Swords to Plowshares, and Matt gains some life as his commander is exiled. And moving to combat, it's no surprise to anyone that the Farhaven Elf hits Frank for 2. Trevor draws for turn and moves the knight along his board, gearing him up with the flail and then the sword. The knight goes at Matt, who takes 8 damage from the knight connecting, and Trevor then resolves the Sword of War and Peace trigger, with Matt taking another 3 and Trevor gaining 5 life. Frank plays a swamp and pays 4 to cast Teysa, passing to me. At the end of turn, I sacrifice my Burnished Heart and go and find 2 basics, and then I sacrifice the Commander's Seer to draw before going to find my basics. I draw for turn and play a mountain, nearing ever closer to Valakut being active. I then cast an Unwinding Clock and I pass to Matt. Matt uses his library trigger and takes 4 to keep a spare card. He plays an island for his turn and drops an Imperious Perfect. Matt then makes more elves with an Elvish Promenade, gaining 2 more Elven Warriors. With the spell resolving, Matt then taps the Oran Reef to give all of his creatures a +1/+1 counter, and he puts the boots onto the Perfect, passing to Trevor. Trevor plays a Windswept Heath, and I remember to untap the Lens. He swings the knight at me, and before damage, Trevor activates his Stoneforge Mystic's ability to bring out the Hammer of Nazan. With it entering, he puts the attach trigger to target the knight. Responding, I cast Chaos Warp on the Sword of War and Peace after Frank suggests that he'll deal with the knight if the warp hits the sword. Trevor shuffles away the sword and reveals a Temple of Silence off the top. It comes in, and Trevor scries, keeping the card on top. Following up on his word, Frank casts Path to Exile and gets rid of Trevor's knight. Since he knows what's on top, Trevor chooses not to shuffle and find a land. With the combat step essentially fogged, Trevor passes to Frank. Frank plays an Orzhov Guildgate as his land for turn, which comes in tapped. We then see an Elenda hit the field, and Frank hits me for 2 with Teysa. I play an Inkamoth Nexus as my land for turn, and I cast Trading Post. I then bring out Papa Daretti, upticking my Planeswalker. Before passing to Matt, I use the Trading Post to make a goat. Matt uses his library again, but doesn't keep any extra cards. We then see a Rishkar's Expertise resolving, and Matt draws 3 and then gets to put out Marwyn for free. Matt then plays an island as his land for turn, and taps Oran Reef once more to put a counter onto Marwyn. Matt then moves to equip Marwyn with the Greaves, but Trevor exiles her with Anguished Unmaking and takes 3. Matt then moves to combat and hits Trevor for 6 with his 2 Elven Warriors. At the end of Matt's turn, I make a second goat. Trevor draws for turn and casts Godo. Sadly, Matt's bluff of double blue isn't enough, and it resolves. Trevor goes to grab a Helm of the Host and puts it onto the field, which he gets to equip onto Godo for free thanks to the Hammer of Nazan. I sacrifice my Unwinding Clock to Trading Post to see if I've got an answer, but I can't, and so we all die to Trevor's infinite combat steps thanks to the Godo and Helm combo. Game review time! So, the first game wasn't really a super fast combo game, it just did end very early. I unfortunately felt very bad for Mike, who after this game said that comboing out and then losing to Rakdos Charm was like getting punched in the gut. I guess being that close to winning and then having it snatched away because of your own stuff is pretty frustrating. Also, I got to use bonus round to win, which I friggin' love. This card is so good but so situational. You have to be very, very careful as to when you cast it, which is why I run a lot of Grand Abolisher effects and Aurelia's Fury in the deck to prevent opponents who might necessarily mess with me during the turns that I cast it, not be able to. People might also be a bit confused as to why Trevor killed Akiri and Bruse, and it's because we've played against Ryan enough times to know that Akiri is very, very explosive. With the Shield of Kaldra out, Ryan could have easily cast a board wipe and then basically gone unhindered and smashed into us for lethal amounts of commander damage very, very quickly. I think Trevor's threat assessment of killing Ryan first was probably the right move, even if it did give me a bit of an advantage in the end. As for the second game, I'm really not too sure what to say other than don't be an idiot with your removal spells like I was this game. Some people might also say that Frank used it a bit impulsively, but I did convince him to use the Path to Exile on the Knight, which unfortunately didn't really work out very well for us, as you may have seen. I'm not even going to complain too much about the Godo and Helm of the Host combo, since frankly you need to have a lot of mana, because normally the Helm comes into play and you have to pay the equip cost. What made it nutty in this game was the Hammer Nazan not even being on Godo and still allowing Trevor to equip it for free. No, it's attach actually, which is even better. The Hammer, while drawn by the very talented and handsome Victor Adame Minguez, is unfortunately a very nutty card, and it makes equipment stuff very, very good. Had I saved my Chaos Warp for that turn, as opposed to saving myself, 8 points of damage, maybe 10? We could have certainly lived through the rest of the game. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/MTGMudsta. And lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/MTGMudsta. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.